Hi, welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This month is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's remembering our wellness. We as humans have incredible ability to forget a lot of things. Sometimes those things can be triggered by trauma, and sometimes can be in our own nature to avoid topics that can be messy. Today we have a guest all the way from Palestine. Her video's not working, but at least we can hear her. Thank you, Saeda, for joining
Hello,
us
everyone.
today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. I just want to tell all those who are watching, listening, however you're getting this episode, that if you are in the United States or there is a crisis hotline, it's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. It's 1-800-273-8255. Last time we talked, you were on, which will be April. This will be uploaded in May. We talked a lot about stigma. And now, as Mental Health Awareness Month dawns in the United States, it reminds me of the struggles to maintain this discussion. I remember at the end, it was kind of like, at least we're having this discussion. I think that's very important because we're very easily forgetting it. Before I begin, but any comment on that you would like to share, Saeda?
Yeah. I think that's very important to also take a step back and 10, 20 years ago we couldn't have this conversation openly.
Yeah.
And now we can. So that's a very step that we should all recognize and be very appreciative of.
Yeah,
even
and I feel
much more to come from.
Yes, and I feel remembering is sometimes the key to have these discussions to continue on. Before we begin, I want to share a quote. This quote I've been using a lot lately because I feel it's so inspiring. And February was earlier this year, and Martin Luther King Jr. A lot of people know him for "I Have a Dream" speech, but one of the quotes that I love the most, he says, and it reads, "If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward." Saeda, what comes to mind when you hear this quote? Any insight you want to share?
First of all, that quote is my favorite quote ever. I love it.
I like it because go ahead. Sorry.
No, continue.
I just like how simple it is, how it goes through this progression of and it's super inspiring because we all have been in those points where we were crawling just to move forward, especially those in recovery. I want to hear your insight more on this quote and anything else you want to share.
The quote, I feel like people have gone through hell and back. And to remember that there's whatever obstacle comes your way, whatever happens, that there's another way. If you can't walk through it, you can crawl. If you can't jump, there's different ways to get to the point you want to be in life. Just don't stop. Just keep pushing forward. And I think that's something we all need to remember. And to have that realization in your head that there is a different way. I can do this instead of giving up. It's such it's a big step for people.
It is, and sometimes it gets hard to see it because, let's be honest, mental health can be messy, and it's unique. It's different for everyone, and that's where it gets even cumbersome because we're talking about we talked about stigma. You can't talk about stigma without culture, without background, with a lot of context and a lot of hurts. When I think of one thing, and when I think about shame, when I think about loss, when I think about pain, unfortunately, those things cross borders and lines of cultural easier than how we value things. You know what I mean? It's interesting how that works because there's a lot more sad songs out there than there are happy ones.
Yes.
And it's pretty telling.
My favorite song at this moment is the saddest song ever. Which I don't think that's good for me, but I have it on it's the Taylor Swift song. It's called Champagne Problems. It has been on an hour loop for me, and I don't think that's okay.
Well, there's something really basically, I would say, sad songs are so relatable because we all have felt that way. We always, and I feel sometimes they find us comfort when we realize that, and in some ways, that we're not alone. That simple being heard moment can be helpful. And obviously, everyone's road to recovery is different. But I want to talk about Palestine a little bit. Obviously, the view on regarding mental health is filled with shame and also lack of resources. And that's
I think that's like one of the biggest issues we have here. But like, I feel the thing is, the country has grown, but it doesn't mean that doesn't need like, oh, that's it, like we're done growing. The resources, like, how we have like in America and like worldwide, there's a mental health month. Nobody talks about mental health month here.
Yeah, and I feel like it runs deep to when you think of mental health. Sometimes, me being a peer, sometimes it gets associated with weakness. I mean, it gets associated. It gets associated. So, a country that's being built, and just logically think about, is growing. They don't want to feel weak, but a lot of times, something's got to give. A lot of people, there's not less people hurting in Palestine than there are in other countries, or people who need more care. It's cross borders. It's something that all of us can relate to. Is loss, pain, sadness, depression, all these kind of things. All of us can relate to. Yet, some people value it as something that we need to take care of. And it's not perfect. Even in the States, there's some places where funding doesn't go where we would like it. But then there's different steps to it. But I like during this month, because a lot of people just look at their own little town or whatever, and they maybe, I think when you look outside and you got to see the bigger picture, you kind of see some of where the stigma stems. And I feel like sometimes it's fear. Fear kind of transcends a lot of us are afraid, but weakness is part of it in the way I feel, and we don't want to be associated with weakness. So I think along those same lines, people are usually invisible or shunned because of these labels. I am this, and I feel this is a big struggle, and I want to hear your insight. When me being a peer, the first thing I want to know when I was sick was what was wrong with me. It's kind of funny because I found out what's wrong with me.
What's the first thing people think of? Like, why is this happening to me? Like, why do I feel this way?
Yeah. And I feel it's kind of funny how, like, because the journey of recovery, I feel, is a long journey. It's like your whole lifetime. But what I find it interesting is, first thing is I wanted to know what was wrong with me, Saeda, right? I find out what's wrong with me, and then I get medicine management. And it's uniquely hard for each individual. And then I hold on to this, diagnosis. And then that's where some tricky situation comes, because Saeda, I'm Robert first, not my diagnosis. But some people have that trouble of letting go of that, because it is a comfort, but also like you begin to accept it. But like you said, in Palestine, not a lot of other people are accepting it, and true. And the thing is, maybe some opportunities are taken away because of these labels that sometimes may be comforting to know what's wrong with you. And I'm speaking from my own personal experience, but that's why I do like the idea that we kind of need to understand that when it comes to labels, they are useful at certain times. Every day is not a crisis situation, but at the end of the day, I'm Robert first. I am not my mental illness. I think remembering mental health not just as a bunch of labels, but about a bunch of people hurt may help. And that's where I was going. And I want to hear your thoughts on this thread and the idea of, being invisible, shunned. It's a horrible feeling, even if it's at a basic level. But
exactly. I mean, imagine like going through something so dark, a dark time on your place, and you have no one to talk to because you're scared that people are going to look at you completely different. People are not going to accept you. People are going to like, okay, this person's like a total X. We can't trust them anywhere. We can't do anything with them. Oh, we're screwed with this person.
Yeah.
But there's also like a huge factor. Palestine currently in a war. currently. There's how many people are probably going through PTSD, depression,
Yep.
or like suffered the loss of someone a loved one due to this war, and they are too scared to come out and talk.
Yep.
Like, it's a war. Like, obviously people are going to be suffering from PTSD, depression, anxiety, the fear of probably dying, or like there's so many factors to put into the country because we're a third world country, that even the people itself need to take into consideration.
Yeah. And
that this, like, to be honest with you, is work. And for someone to be scared to be like, okay, I can't get help because 1, 2, 3, like these people are gonna look at me differently, or I'm gonna be a mocking joke, or people are gonna talk bad about me, and that's the only thing that's coming through your head. Not, oh, I need to take care of me. I need to do what's best for me.
Yeah, I was in the military, 2004, in the Air Force, and I remember reading. I used to read Ernest Hemingway. I still, I have one of his books, I think, is, I don't know, Arms, called Arm. I don't know. One of his books, I remember, there was this one segment. He says, the person asked, how important is a person in your, trench? Because this is World War One, obviously. And he said, the person in your foxhole, or whatever I'm paraphrasing, is more important than the war itself. Any veteran out there who's listening, I would say in a way it makes sense, because we have no control a lot of times to whether we're going to go to war or not, but at the same time, what matters is the people around you at a very basic level. The person right there in your foxhole, that's what matters. And I feel, unfortunately, like I said before, shame, pain, loss transcends our cultural, social borders in our world more than the positive things, like value, being coming together, support. And what's really telling, even in a United States, as diverse and as accepting as mental health is, and comparatively, I do a group, and I think this is really telling, not just because it's a support group. It's through NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness. I'm a facilitator. The second half is principles of support. And if you really look at principles of support, it's helping people in the support group know how to support each other. And I feel a lot of people look at that kind of like, oh, how do you, like, I know how to support each other. No, you don't. A lot of people don't, because like one of the things that we say is, I don't look at their problems less than my own. That's a hard pill for anyone who's very proud to say, because it's something that I struggle with. Another thing is humor is healthy. There's this thing that I always say that especially lately is, life is best lived shared. That's it. Yeah. Life is best lived shared, and there's a difference between living through recovery and maintaining it. There's a difference, and there's this transition, and I will never. Everyone's at the seasons of their life in recovery, but like you're saying with Palestine and the war that's ongoing, and everything that's on their backs of everyone, all the men who are or women who are fighting or being part of all that, they have. I know how I felt after 9/11. I had my onset. I did not feel like I wanted to get out. I didn't get out because I felt like, even in myself, I didn't feel shit. I didn't even know what was going on at the time. But I can imagine this tremendous amount of duty of serving your country and not giving your family a bad name, and that makes sense. But at the same time, it doesn't solve the problem that we're talking about. It doesn't keep the conversation going when everyone is feeling like they have to be invisible, or they'll be shunned because of being labeled. Exactly. But as I said, I feel sometimes it's problematic right now. Everyone's had, with this COVID-19, it's kind of eerie of how everything is. Everyone's kind of getting used to it. I don't like it, but it's just, the urgency is funny, because urgency, even despite us supposed to be slowing down and staying home and social distancing, and it hasn't stopped. At least in the United States, we just had an election. It has been more and more urgent, more and more polarizing thoughts, and has promoted the idea of certainty and intolerance at the same time, which is concerning because I don't like where this two polarizing thoughts. It also all it does is divide. It continues to divide each other. So I'm sorry I went on a rant, but with Palestine and you living there for how long? If you can, how long have you lived there so far?
I don't even know, like 5 years, probably 5-6 years.
Okay, and I remember you saying like initially you're like I can't stand this place, or you didn't like it.
Yeah,
as
I mean
much,
the culture. The culture shock. You know, you're taking somebody who lived in America part like the majority of her life, and taking her to a whole new country where everything's different, the people are different, the language is different. It's scary.
It is,
but,
yeah.
It took me a while to get used to, but it also did not help my mental health at all when I came here.
Yeah, but it's funny because people always look at like a place they live as their home, but I feel like a lot of times we have houses we live in, but not homes we live in. Home is kind of connotates as family support. I could be in a house, I could live in a house, but a home is being built by the support you bring and a healthy kind of environment, safe environment. Unfortunately, there's a lot of houses out there, but not enough homes, if that makes sense. And
exactly.
When it comes to,
I understand what you mean, yeah.
And when it comes to these thoughts, there's no absolute, and this is a long problem. This is something that's going on so there's no quick fix. But
it's gonna take probably long time to like it gets to some kind of normalcy.
Yeah, and I feel these conversations, other people, not just all around the world, who are seeing that there's something wrong when people can't be heard. Like mental health is a lot of times seen as an invisible disease because people forget really easily that person may be struggling. I think of Robin Williams. He was a comedian in the United States. He made amazing. He made everyone else laugh, but he was probably no one really knows. Obviously, no one really knows except him and like maybe a few others.
His close family, yeah.
Yeah, but he was really struggling, and I feel that it's kind of that that invisibility that makes it kind of haunting. So I kind of, whenever I see someone, and they say something harsh to me, Saeda, I don't look at the words, I look at the reasons they're saying it. Does that make sense? A lot of times people around are very hurt, and especially now with the tension of this looming uncertainty, people showing polarizing ideas to get people on their side. I find it problematic and actually kind of sad. Because why we talk about mental health? Because it's the people. Because the family's attached. The people are hurt day in and day out. Anything you want to add, Saeda?
No, I think you covered a good portion of it, to be honest with you. I'm like, yeah, that's so true. I mean, like when when we found out about like Robbie Williams passing away, we're all like, wait, he was like the funniest and he always had a smile on his face. I'm like,
I know.
How? Like, what?
How's that happen?
People that you, how? Like, and they were like, "Where's the signs? How's the signs?" Like, oh my god! Like, and just sometimes you just need to ask. Even the happiest people, how are you doing? And that would like affect the person.
Yeah, taking the time to be present is very important. Like, we sometimes get complacent because we familiar surroundings, but sometimes I have friends here that I just check, and one of my friends lost his father from COVID on Christmas Day. And Christmas was for him a very special time, and I check on him. He's one of my best friends, and I don't assume that he's just well because grieving of any sort takes time. You know what I mean? And it's a process. And there's sometimes this mentality, especially with some people I've seen, get it right the first time. And I can't play a role in this narrow-minded view on society because like we said before, mental health is messy, unfortunately. It's not, there's no there's no equation to fix it, and I think that's the problem. But at the same time, people are so kind of short-sighted because think about physical health. It's not, there's no, like, there may be medicines that could really help, and there's some cures, but treatment is set up to the individual itself. You know what I mean? There's different aspects to whether their health or past or background, so they can't. There's no like one shop, one fix all solution for a lot of things, even if we like to pretend it is. And I think this narrow-mindedness makes it a little frustrating for someone like me, or seeing people kind of shunned in society, whether it's in the United States or let's say Palestine or wherever, just because they're sad or they're struggling. A lot of times feeling emotions is just like they don't want to see it because it makes them uncomfortable. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, there's a lot of people, like, universal, like all over the country, that parents overlook their child's mental health because they just want to see the perfect image of their child being okay and happy until it's too late.
Yeah. I just remember this one. I'm reading this book called Seculosity. It's a good book, and one of the things they mentioned was parenting. I'm like, I just got married. I'm not thinking about parenting yet. But the thing was, there's one point that was really funny. It was not funny. It reminded me of my wife's sister. She has autism, nonverbal, all her life. One thing that I remember when I first went to see her, my wife, my fiance back then, she's like, she was telling me everything that I needed to know before seeing her. I'm like, and because there's this concern that I may be uncomfortable. I said to her, Joanne, she lived her whole life. Me going there, being uncomfortable for a day, just seeing her. How selfish is that? And that made me realize of how people may think. It is when things are different. When you see people who are a little bit different, a lot of people, like my wife or other people, may make a lot of excuses, may apologize, or make a lot of ways to say, hey, this is just how it is. But how about the other person not being able to communicate? How is that?
Exactly.
So for me, I feel like that short-sightedness, sometimes we try to put a 10-foot pole approach, and I think that's why we need to continue having these discussions about stigma. I want to ask you real quick, what steps forward would you like to see? And this is just, for me, some people are like, oh, this is scary. It's everyone sharing their insight. What I share may help, but I think it's all of us, because that's the whole point. All of us kind of having the discussion locally or globally. What do you think? What would you like to see happen? And what must we not forget? That's kind of weird. Like, it shifts to what do you think we should not forget regarding this month? And what would you like to see start changing,
I mean, I would like, so I would like for people, I guess, I don't know, I can't change, like, I mean, if I had, like, my perfect world, I think it would be for people to be okay and honest and open and seek help when they need it.
Yeah,
I think regardless of what people might say or do.
Yeah, I think right now, as much as this is a hindrance with this whole COVID, it also propagates this new opportunity. Like, we're talking right here. I would have never known you if I didn't start this podcast and we met. So, like, there's other ways for people to connect. And I feel like there's some people who are making more solid virtual support groups. And I think sometimes this hybrid approach may be an avenue to explore, because some people that maybe countries that are not yet ready due to a lot of history, an individual could go online and actually get some support elsewhere. And I feel there's these baby steps to that. And it's just, how does that look? Because obviously you still want the infrastructure at where you're at. But even now, I see my therapist through telehealth, through the internet, you know what I mean? Once a month. So it is interesting. This may be an opportunity to kind of, for countries to kind of look outside the box than traditionally going to an office per se. But I'm not saying we do want the face to face, but at the same time, we do what we can with what we have, if that makes sense.
Exactly true. I mean, I think that's with COVID, people are now using Zoom. They're now using internet callings, and there's more ways they realize that to contact people from far without going, face to face, which can help. People who are scared to talk to their therapist. And I honestly, I had for a while an idea to start something here. For mental health, but I just don't know where to start, and I think that's something I want to do in the future. If I do open the conversation up, maybe it'll help. If it helps just one person, I'll be like, okay, I did my part as a person.
Yeah, I think really it's just making these connections like we're having, and there's other people around the world probably saying the same things we are in different ways.
Exactly.
And that's what this month is really for. It's not. It's just never going to be a quick fix. This is one thing I want to share. This quote, it says, "Everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of it changing himself or herself." You know what I mean? It's how we look at things, and I feel sometimes we could be too close to the elephant per se and not see the bigger picture. I think this uncertainty with COVID. And in the sense that it has slowed certain aspects out, but it has not slowed our urgency in ourselves. I know that much. People are more. I've seen a lot of stress being propagated, even though they don't, let's say, have to go to a physical location to work at times. They're still as stressed and as burned out than ever before.
Sure.
This quote right here that I'm leaving on there, what comes to mind? And then I'm going to kind of shift over to this one as we kind of wrap things up a little bit. What comes to mind when you see this quote? And I'm going to show you another quote just to kind of get your mind, what your thoughts are. Everyone thinks this world one on the screen. Though everyone thinks of changing the world, but no one thinks of changing himself or herself. What comes to mind?
how people oh, I wish this world would be better, and I wish that people will be more happier, and how people I wish world peace and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think that nobody realizes that the first step of change is yourself. Because when someone sees how positive you are and sees how you're reaching out to people, it encourages them to do the same. And it'll start this whole little trend, not a trend, but starts this whole little this train that people are just okay, this person's reaching out, we can do this too. This is how we can make this world a better place. Just start with yourself first.
Yeah, I think like I said before, this idea of hurt people, and that's what happens more often. And having that positive kind of outlook, or try to change your mindset, because I found it more useful. I find it more growth in my recovery, Saeda, not being around everyone who thinks like me. Trust me, I've been around a lot of people who I do not agree with, but I learn a lot about myself, because a lot of us are similar, but there's different reasons why they're saying what they're saying. It may sound like hate, it may sound extremely angry. All I hear is extremely hurt. Okay, there's an immense amount of fear out there, and they're trying to make sure that their family is safe. And I understand that, but at the same time, it stems from fear. And this problem of mental health and access to care and resources is not going to go away by not thinking about it. And I do love having these conversations with people who are as passionate. Maybe they don't know maybe the resources or what's available, but we need to keep talking about it, because it's not about being an expert on here. It's really about going back to the basics. Why do we even care about mental health? Because of the people, because of the families. Some of my friends who are not here because they made the ultimate choice. And unfortunately, that happens more than not.
It happens more times than we like to admit.
Yeah. Peter Drucker said it like this is what I've been saying. He said the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. Interesting. A lot of times we just kind of look and focus on, the words and what they're saying. Are they true or not? Just look at the individual. Look at the context. The person. One of my friends, she was a social worker in New York City, and the homeless guy asked her. He was homeless for 20 years. What's the hardest thing being homeless? And she was spending housing, all this stuff, access to educate, all this stuff. He said, no, loneliness. That's it. Wow. And it opened your eyes, because no matter what house, you could be in a house and still feel utterly alone. You could be in a huge mansion and still feel like you're isolated. You feel miserable. It's not the place. It's how we see ourselves, how we value ourselves. And sometimes people are extremely hurt. And those invisible people like myself need we need to keep these dialogues so these people can maybe feel safe enough to get the help that they need, and continue the conversation. I just want to ask you one last thing as we kind of wrap up is remembering our wellness. What does this mean to you, and why do you think it's important?
I think sometimes we get caught up in the day, or get caught up in what's happening around us, that we forget that we need to take care of ourselves, and that we forget that we are important, and it's not selfish when we need to take a step back and take care of ourselves, because we forget that we are important, but sometimes we forget that our mental health is important, which is, we're too caught up with what's happening in the world, we're too caught up with what's happening with other people's lives, that we take a step back and we're like, okay, what about me? And then we often feel guilty when we want to do something that is for us, that would better us, because it might hurt somebody. You might need to cut off somebody. You might need to step back from somebody. But at the end of the day, remembering that your mental health is important, and remembering that you need to take care of yourself, and that is important more than anything else. Yeah. It might be scary, but it's what needs to be done before it goes back to a place that you recovered from, or that you moved on from. I really like what you're saying. Remembering wellness is just look at the calendar, look at the holidays, look how many they are, and it just shows how much we forget. As we are reminded of this month and what it means to millions of families around the world. Any closing remarks you would like to share with those listening today, Saeda? I would just like to, during this month, we remember the people we lost. Yeah. And I think that it's important to remember that those people who were lost are not forgotten. Yes. And that they live through our memories, they live through what we go through every day, and they keep us strong. Yes. And that at the end of the day, during this month, it's probably sometimes a dark month for us, but also it's a month for us to remember our growth and how much farther we can go. And if we were to give up on ourselves, that we would miss out on so much amazing things. Yeah. The last, I talked about principal support. The last principal support is we never give up hope. Again, thank you, Saeda. I just want to share with those who are watching, you can always find all the updates for Revive Ministries through the various platforms, reviveministriesfl.com. This is goodbye from Revive Ministries Podcast, leaving you with this last quote. A wise man changes his mind, a fool never will. Spanish proverb.